and today we will be talking about a case study regarding the DuPont. So, DuPont, a very renowned corporation, faced a controversy when it was revealed that they were knowingly exposed the people with and the environment to a hazardous chemical, the PFOA, which is used in the production of Teflon. Despite early indications of the health issues associated with the PFOA, DuPont concealed this information and continued its use and dumping it for the profits. This led to a severe health issues in the environment and environmental contamination, resulting in the legal actions against against the company, along with the settlements as well. The case raises the question about the ethics and the accountability of the corporation, which we are going to discuss about. In this scenario, there were several type of ethics that were evident. For example, the corporate ethics was taken in place, where we can see that the due process represent a violation of the corporate ethics, as the company knowingly concealed the information of the danger of PFOA and prioritized the profits over the public health. The organizational ethics were also being harmed in this case because the organizational culture at DuPont was emphasized for the secrecy and the profit maximization rather than the public interest. This contributed to the company's unethical behavior as well. If you talk about the managerial ethics, we can in the managerial ethics we can see that the managers within the DuPont uh, likely played a role in the decision making regarding the handling of the PFOA, choosing or prioritizing financial gains over the ethical considerations. If you talk about the leadership ethics as well, the leadership ethic failed in the DuPont case because it upholds the ethics standards by allowing the corporation continuation of the harmful practices despite knowledge of these consequences. Obviously, because of this whole big scandal, the DuPont decided to remain silent on this. The several factors that contributed to the DuPont silence was the financial interest of the company, because obviously they would like to have the finances as being the major priority of most of the organization around the world, and they would like to gain more and more of the economic gain in the public health sector rather than thinking about the contamination of the environment and the public health as well. If you talk about the corporate culture of the company, a culture of secrecy and the maximum profit uh, within the dew point may be discouraging to the employees for raising the concern to the safety of PFOA. And obviously, the employees can't whistleblow in this kind of a case as well. If you talk about the legal implications in this for the dew point, acknowledging the danger would have been exposed to the due point to the significant legal liability and the financial penalties, and incentivizing the companies to conceal the information was taken care of. And there were lack of regulations as well within the company because there was the absence of stringent regulations regarding the use and disposal of the chemicals like PFOA may have embodiment dew point on the continuation of this practice without the fear of the consequences. So yeah, if you talk about the personality of the CEO in this company, so obviously these kind of decisions are being taken care by the leadership as well because the leadership knows that what are the things that the company is doing right now and what will be the harmful effects to the environment or to the people in the public interest. So if you talk about the characteristic of the CEO, it is significantly influenced how the ethical problems are handled within the company. A CEO within the strong ethical values have committed to the corporate responsibility may prioritize the well-being of the stakeholders over the short-term financial gains. Conser- Conversely, a CEO driven primarily by the profit and the shareholding interest may be more likely to overlook the ethical concerns in the pursuit and the financial success. Additionally, a CEO leadership style and the decision-making approach can be influenced on how the ethical dilemmas are addressed within the organization. This can be seen in the case of DuPont as well, because the company, rather than having a look in the public interest, was moreover inclined towards the prioritization of of the monetary benefits that the company is going to get the profit from. Although although the CEO knew that this kind of a chemical PFOA is very harmful to the environment and the public health as well, but still he decided, and with the help of the stakeholders as well, decided to continue this kind of a term because they know that there were loopholes within the company as well. If we talk about the unethical behavior within, if I have ever faced some kind of ethical behavior in company, so yeah, I will definitely be vocal about it. I will obviously let my managers know if there's some kind of an unethical behavior comes into in my field of work. I would personally advocate for the transparency and accountability for the ethical decision making. This would involve the voicing the concerns to the senior management if my manager is not listening to me. Also, initiating the discussions among the to about the ethical guidelines and the practices that are being carried out within the organization to promote a culture of integrity and in the organization will be very helpful. Ethical behavior can actually enhance a company's competitiveness by fostering the trust and the loyalty among the stakeholders, attracting the social consents consumer, and mitigating the legal and reputation risk. For example, if there is a company, if in my company I see that if I see that my manager is not listening to me, so there has to be a very clear and cut accountability to my seniors as well, that so that they can see what is happening in the company and what kind of ethical behavior decision that they can take as well. From a business perspective, if we talk about the do point, we can say that there must be some steps that should be taken by them in in which includes the public apologies, because it is a responsibility of a CEO of a large firm that it should be apologetical to the people of the people, uh, or because of their acts that have been harmful to the public interest. So yeah, it is very ethical of the company's guideline and investing in the community initiatives to demonstrate the commitment to the positive change as well. If we talk about legalities, they are obviously settling of the legal lawsuits can be compliant as well, uh, because it is a requirement, and implementing the internal controls to prevent the future misconducts are crucial as well. Ethically, demonstrating the genuine remorse, taking the responsibility for the past action, and reprioritizing the stakeholders' well-being over profit motives are essential to building a trust and credibility. If we talk about the dew point case, we can see we have to see many. There is a question that is always obviously raised regarding the testing of the product. Is there enough testing that has been done prior to the launch of the product? So, in my opinion, there has to be a lot more of the testing in this kind of a case. This is because they're testing before launching any kind of a product. People has to know what is the harmful ingredients that is in the product, how it's going to help the company or to the general public. So these kind of a things has to be taken care of within this company before launching any kind of a new product. From a business perspective, sufficient testing ensures safety and the minimize risk of lawsuits and recall, ultimately protecting the company's reputation and the financial interest. Legally, meeting regulatory requirement for the product safety is necessary to avoid the legal liabilities and the potential penalties for the negligence. Ethically, if we talk about the thorough testing demonstrate a commitment to the consumer safety and prevents the harmful alignment of the principles to the corporate responsibility and the stakeholder protection. If we talk about the interest of the multiple stakeholders to be balanced within the company, so if we talk about in the business perspective, balancing stakeholder interests ensure the long-term sustainability and the profitability by fostering the positive relation between the consumers, the employees, investors, and the community. This will help because gaining the trust of the stakeholders is one of the most important thing. It will help the company in the long run as well, and will uh, will gain the profits in the long term. If we talk about the legalities, legally fulfilling the legal obligations of all the stakeholders prevent the legal dispute and the regulatory violations, mitigating the risk of the company reputation and the financial stability as well. Ethically, if we talk about considering the need and the right of all the stakeholders, promote the fairness and the social responsibility and the ethical conduct, enhancing the trust and the credibility of the people. If we talk about the prison sentences that the corporate criminals do have, so uh, for the business perspective, long prison sentences may deter unethical behavior by holding the individual accountability and sending a strong message that the corporate misconduct not be tolerated. It is very important for every single person in the business that if there is an unethical behavior that has been conducted by the business, then the responsible people should be behind the bars in this case. Because number one, they went for the profits rather than going for the health of the company, health of the people or the consumers. So there should be a very strong message to be sent to the corporate employees that if there is an unethical behavior in the company, then the results it will be resultant in behind the bars and won't be tolerated any kind of misconduct. If we talk about the legalities, obviously jails and the jail terms and the fines are the severe punishment that are for the illegal actions, and it will provide a restitution to the victim, ensuring the justice is served and determining the future wrongdoing. If we talk about ethically, the accountability of wrongdoing is necessary to uphold the justice, protect the rights of the victim, and protect the future harm, aligning with the principles of fairness and social well-being is also a very important thing that comes into the case. If we elaborate on this on if we elaborate more on this, so obviously justice has to be served in this kind of a case. Ethically, the justice is what the consumer actually seeks whenever there is an unethical behavior from a company or a person. If we talk about the in terms of company, if the company is not taking care of the human interest or the public interest, then there has to be some kind of an accountability from the company to uphold the justice, and they have to be dragged to the court in this kind of a case, and the justice needs to be served by the jurisdiction as well. If we talk about the financial penalties that the DuPont reasonably gave in this kind of a case, so there was some reasonable amount given to the harmed cause, and there was a need to reinstitute every single thing. However, the reputation of the company might have gone down for a bit because of all the lawsuits that they had been going in. But yeah, the financial penalty was very important for them. It was particularly reasonable because they were not compliant with because they knew that the chemical that they were using is very harmful, and still they decided to carry on with all their regular work, and they didn't look back. They didn't look for the public interest rather than they just went for the short-term financial success and the profits. If we talk about the examples of the financial penalties that have been carried out in the larger organization that we discussed in the class as well. So one of the cases that comes into my mind is the Cambridge Analytica case, in which the Facebook uses its client to better target the political message to people that could be influenced by also knowing as the micro targeting. Facebook shut down the access of all the apps in this API in 2014, and the API access was fully shut down in 2015. So in regards to that, Meta says that they have paid $725 million lawsuit settlement ends for ending the Analytica scandal in March 2000. The second case that comes into my mind is the Volkswagen settlement for the emission cheating, where Volkswagen was tweaking in the engines to pass the test for the carbon emission in that in back in the days. So it was very unethical of the company to do such kind of a thing, to manipulate the engine's carbon emission and pass on the test, which was later on caught by the company, and it obviously run down all the reputation of the Volkswagen that was there, that was built in the market. The goodwill had been brought down by, and obviously there were some legalities, and the ethical perspective was also taken into this case, leading into the cheat in this case of cheating. Obviously, the compensation of 104 of 114.7 billion dollars was um, given to the people or the customers of the Volkswagen for the cheating in this kind of a case. The penalties are debated in terms of the advocacy, considering the scales of harm and the corporate responsibility. For a business perspective, the penalties may have the significant financial implications and damage the company reputation. If we talk about legality, the penalty may be seen as the appropriate reinstitution in the harm cause and deterrents against the future misconduct. Ethically, the penalty should reflect the severity of the wrongdoing and provide the justice to the affected stakeholders, aligning with principles of fairness and accountability. Thank you. Hello there. Now we are going to talk about the second case study, which is regarding the food related ethics that we have uh, seen here. So in this scenario, I work in a fast food restaurant where the delivery of eggs and milks and a dairy product arrive in the amidst report of contamination in the local newspaper. When I discussed this issue with my manager, so the manager didn't give any kind of a reply to it, and he told to forget about this situation. This analysis, the manager demised the issues and prompting the question about the ethical implications or ignoring the potential health hazards that can be carried out. In addition to that, he also told that if the company is going to look for every single serial number, then the business can't be done in this kind of way. This analysis will explore the ethical, legal, and the business perspective surrounding around the decision to continue serving potentially the contaminated milk. Let's talk about the ethical issues involved in this kind of a case. At the core of this scenario, there are several ethical considerations that can be seen. First of all, the health and safety ethics comes into the play. The primary concern is the potential risk posed by the customer health and the safety if they consume the contaminated milk. As a food establishment, the restaurant has a moral obligation to prioritize the well-being of its consumers. If the company continue to deliver such kind of contaminated milk, then the company and the restaurant will have a very bad reputation in the market, and obviously the consumer won't be having a healthy life, won't be living a healthy life as well. The second ethic involved is the transparency and honesty. The manager decision to dismiss the case without the proper investigation raised the questions about the transparency and the honesty of the company. Concealing the information and the potential risk undermine the trust between the restaurant and its customers as well. In this case, obviously the manager is not that ethical in kind of a case when he dismisses all these allegations that has been coming up in the newspaper. When such things have been reported in a newspaper, the company or the manager of the restaurant should act accordingly, and there should be an honesty between the employers as well, because employers are the one who will be facing the customer on day-to-day life as well. So this will if there is no honesty or transparency between the customer, between the employees or the manager, then it will be a very bad situation ethically in the company. If we talk about the responsibilities, the responsibility is being bared on the restaurant itself, to ensure the safety of the food it serves. Ignoring the potential contamination of the milk will jeopardize the responsibility and could lead to a harmful harm for the consumers and the employees and and the broader community as well. It will obviously this won't be very good. This won't be very good for the business as well, because it will obviously the word of mouth will come into the play and will decrease the business in the company, which will ultimately leads to the letting go some employees as well. If we continue on to pursue the matter with the different perspective, so if we talk about the business perspective, as I told you already, if we continue to serve the potentially contaminated milk, which poses a certain risk to the restaurant's business. In this event, the customer fall ill. It could lead to loss of reputation, decrease in the patronage, patronage, and the potential legal liabilities to the business as well. These consequences could far overweight the cost of replacing the milk for the uncontaminated supplies. Additionally, the business will go into the losses as well, because of, as I told you, the word of mouth will come into the play, because, and there will be a unrest in the citizens or the consumers of the company. They won't be they won't be trusting the milk, because of the recent history of the contamination of the milk will come into the play. If you talk about the legal perspective of this situation, ignoring the potential safety hazards may violate the health and safety regulations, exposing the restaurant to legal consequences. Health authorities could issue the fine and closure orders, or even the lawsuit has from the affected customers if the negligence is proven. Compliance with the regulation is essential to avoid the legal liabilities and maintaining the restaurant's operational functionality. So yeah, generally, we have seen in the multiple cases as well where the authorities has raised the concern, where the consumer has raised the concern and the authorities had taken the action for fining them. There have been some closure of the outlets as well, which obviously is not good for the business and will be proven very fatal for in the future as well. If we talk about the ethical perspective, prioritizing the customer safety and the honesty in the communication line is the ethical principle. It is very important for every single business or the manager itself to be aligned with the customers. There should be a transparency between the customers that what if there is some kind of a problem or some kind of a misleading um, or some kind of contamination in the milk has been reported, then the business should be able to come forward by itself, and should establish a transparent relation between both the business and the customers. Ignoring the issue without a proper investigation and the action is not very good. It will obviously run down the reputation of the company, uh, and the action could be seen as ethically irresponsible as well. Upholding the ethical standard requires the proactive measures to mitigate the risk and ensure the well-being of the stakeholders as well. If we talk about the options available to address this issue, there are several options that that can be taken care of while we talk about this kind of an issue. For example, checking the milk, checking the staff could assign to check the milk. Obviously, the here comes the case of the testing as well. So before before letting any kind of a box or the milk containers out in the market, there should be a checking of the milk that whether the milk has been contaminated or not, or even if the milk that has been procurated in the market, then the it is responsibility for the of the business to call the batch back and check the milk that whether it's contaminated or not. The second thing that comes is the informing the owners or the management as well. So if we talk about bringing the issue into attention to the higher management or the owner of the restaurant could promote a decisive action to the address the problem effectively. The second is refusing to serve the milk. If the reports of being if the reports has been there that the milk has been contaminated, then the company should refuse to serve the milk from the immediate effect. This will obviously gain the risk of the trust of the people that the company is being ethical to their points as in this case. Uh, the reporting to the health authorities is also one of the good examples of the ethical thing. Ethically, it will be obviously the safety concerns will be there for the restaurants, and the health authorities will further investigate and guide and will be guiding the scenario. If we talk about the impact of the higher chance of contamination, if the authorities indicate a small moderate chance of contamination instead of a minuscule one, the analysis might change. Business perspective will be changed as well as a higher chance of contamination increases the potential negative consequences such as the legal liabilities and the reputation damage, making it more urgent to address the issue. The legal the legal perspective will be a greater risk for the company as the greater the risk of contamination may prompt the stronger regulatory responses and legal consequences for disregarding safety concerns. Ethical perspective comes into heighten the risk of the consumer safety, would amplify the ethical imperative to the address the issues promptly and transparently, making it more difficult to justify inactions and obviously the trust of the people won't be with the company in that case. If we talk about the additional health violations and that impacts of additional health violations that have been carried out, so if there were additional health violations in the restaurant, the analysis might change. Business perspective will be ignoring the multiple health violation increases of the risk and the liabilities and the reputation damage, which could serve the financial consequences for the restaurant. Legal perspective, the presence of the multiple health violation may result in more severe legal consequences for the restaurant, which can include fine or closure of the restaurant, or even or sometimes jails can also be seen in such cases. So the company won't be able to operate the business in the market by that time and will be in a danger for losing the business as well. Ethical perspective, if you talk about the prioritizing of the customer safety and the honesty in the communication becomes even more imperative, and multiple health violations are involved. Despite the potential conflict with the manager, and informing the owner is necessary to address all the health violations and uphold the ethical standards. So me as an employee who had been reading such kind of information, it is my duty to come in front of the owner and tell him about all these things and have to make sure that the manager also works ethically on this kind of a situation. In conclusion, the decision to continue serving the potentially contaminated milk at the fast food restaurant is complex ethical, legal, and business consideration. Prioritizing the customer safety, transparency, and the compliance is the regulation, uh, and within the regulations of the authorities are essential for maintaining the restaurant's reputation. Ensuring legal compliance and upholding the legal standards is also one of the most important part a business should take in consideration. Proactive measures such as investigating the issue, informing the higher management or the owner and taking the prior appropriate actions are necessary to mitigate risk and protect the well-being of the stakeholders. Thank you very much. So this recording is for the case study 3A, where we are going to discuss about the three debates that I have attended in the class. So the first debate that I attended in the class was uh, the Cambridge Analytica and the Facebook debate, where the Facebook was using the data of its users to manipulate the voting rights in the United States of America with the help of Cambridge Analytica. So in this debate, we were able to see some ethical issues. First of all, the data that the Facebook was using was not with the consent of all the users that that were using the Facebook. So obviously there is a pop-up box that obviously comes whenever we use the Facebook, but that is the consent form for all the cookies and all the cookies that we use. But it is not a very reliable source as well, because in those cookies, generally people do is just use all the cookies. The people don't usually know what are those cookies, and whenever the people and obviously the customer lacks time in this cases, they don't want to go inside every single pop-up box and tick all the consents that they have to use. So when this kind of a case arises in the in the Facebook. So there was a very different kind of reaction from the people, because in that year, in 2014, this case started, and in 2016 there was the elections in the United States of America. So the manipulation of the case was no, the manipulation of the votes was taken place in this kind of a case. If we talk about the ethics that were taken, manipulation obviously is not a very good uh, manipulation of the votes is not considered ethical in my opinion, because uh, every single person has their own right and own vote that they would like to see, what they want to have what kind of a government they want to have in their country. Secondly, the ethics that were violated was the privacy of the users. So users' data was being shared with the Cambridge Analytica, which is not considered ethical as well, because that was without the consent of the people. Obviously, there will be debates that there were cookies and all those things, but obviously nobody's going to read those cookies. If you talk about the business perspective of this, the company obviously was faced many criticism among its owners, and because of which we can say that Facebook was not considered a very safe platform by those days. If we talk about the legal aspect of this, so there was a lawsuit filed against the company, because of which the company was supposed to pay $725 million to the people, and it was not a very good kind of good thing that happened for the reputation of the company. The second case study that I think of is the use of AI in the students or for doing the projects. So in this debate, the discussion was regarding all kind of AI tools, whether it is very helpful to the people or the students to use on the day-to-day basis for their projects or not. So in this case, what we see is that when this was being discussed in the class, we were able to see that there were some ethical issues with this as well. Obviously, the students generally don't use these AI tools like ChatGPT or uh, Google Gemini these days just to seek the knowledge or to do the research. They obviously are using these tools to just get the answers for their questions from these ChatGPT or the AI tools, and just submit this as their assignment. The ethical problem with this is that that will cause the plagiarism and will be considered as an offense under the Canadian education laws. This will this is obviously very bad for the reputation of the students and for the other and for the ChatGPT, the other companies as well. If we talk about the legal action that can be taken place, obviously termination of the students can be taken place after the three strikes or the three irregularities between in these cases has been seen. Uh, if we talk about the other aspect of this in like the student aspect of this. So it was discussed in the class that the students actually are not are not able to enhance their skills on the daily basis because of the use of these AI tools. For example, if we have to do a code in let's say in Python, so usually, so before the use of these ChatGPT, usually the student used to use Google or other things as well, which were obviously not going to deny it will obviously provide the answers to that. But in those cases, the students still had to write. There was some manual intervention from the human as well. They would write those codes. But nowadays, ChatGPT or some these AI tools just give you own written code which you just have to copy and paste it into your file, and you just need to run those codes, which is not very ethical in my opinion, and which will obviously decrease or decrease the skills of the people. And when the students will be going into the job fields, they won't be that job ready, and then obviously there will be situation of less number of jobs, and which will and then the blame will be on the AI, that the AI is taking on out of all the jobs in this cases. So this was the second debate that I was being part of, and I think that, and I obviously at that moment, obviously, I was thinking that both the points are correct. Whether it's obviously it is in a gray area these days that whether the use of ChatGPT or AI tools are good, because these kind of things are obviously going to enhance the productivity of the people as well. But on the similar thing, the people or students obviously um, are just more focused on earning more money rather than just have enhancing their knowledge. So this is my perspective of this whole chat GPT or the AI tools thing that was discussed in the class. The third debate I remember was the carbon emission one. It is it is in the gray area as well, because uh, when we were discussing this kind of debate in the class, we were able to see that there were many perspectives that people people gave. So one of the cases that was raised about was this, tracking of Taylor Swift's uh, private plane when she used it when she used her private plane to go the to the NFL game or the Super Bowl at that weekend. So the data was leaked, which was, in my opinion, was unethical. But we have seen that there are multiple flight trackers uh, or multiple apps that usually track those flights to just to see the status of all, which is which is again very uh, which is allowed in this kind of a situations. But the main problem of this situation was that it was being particularly tracked by particular just for a particular celebrity, and then it was being targeted upon the internet, which was unethical in my opinion, because just one celebrity is not doing this thing that uh, they are being using this private jet. Every single person who had this kind of a money will be obviously looking for a very lavish life rather than just going by just a private plane. They will see that which thing is more comfortable to them, and then they will be uh, intact more and more on this situation. But to say that it is not the responsibility of celebrities as well to see about the environment is very bad. Uh, it is everybody's responsibility to look after the environment because it is the mother earth that we are talking about. There are some ethical ethical health issues and the safety issues as well when it comes to this thing. But just to say that it is just a private plane of one of the celebs is not it is a gray area because it is neither ethically correct, neither it is wrong in my opinion, because many people use this kind of a thing. So yeah, if we talk about the if we talk about the health issues that it can raise, so there was a point that was discussed regarding this kind of a debate, which I found it very funny, was the point of uh, when when these ambassadors or the government officials travel. For example, in the class we were discussing about the travel of Justin Trudeau to Jamaica. So one of our classmates obviously raised the point that Justin Trudeau should have used a private plane in this case. So talking about that, I think it will be ethically it would be good, but if you talk about the security purpose of this kind of the people of him in that stature, then we will see that it is very important for a prime minister of a country to travel by a private plane with whole of the convoy with him, because it can reduce the risk of any kind of an attack. Just imagine Justin Trudeau being riding in the Justin Trudeau being in the air, and suddenly there is some kind of an attack, because obviously there are going to be some information regarding his travel. So in that case, the security of these politicians or the people who are holding such kind of a government authorities is very important. So as again, it is in a very gray area that we are in, that whether these kind of things are ethical or not. But yeah, I'm going to say that it is just the responsibility for every single person. It is it is a moral value that has been taught to us, that that how the environment need to be treated, how the people needs to be treated as well. So yeah, to conclude, I think all these debate topic uh, are had their can teach us the moral values as well. For example, if we talk for in the first case, we talk about the Cambridge Analytica one. The moral value that has been talked about is the data privacy. It is obviously the privacy of every single person is being taught to us morally. You cannot just take somebody's data and give it to some other people. It is morally incorrect to the people, ethically incorrect to the people. It can lead to the legalities, which we saw in the case of the Analytica as well. If it in the case of ChatGPT, it is morally incorrect to use some kind of a what we say some kind of a AI tool just to get the more marks, and obviously the students are not going to learn more, so it is morally unethical. Legally, there can be legal actions against you. People can the school or the college can sue you, and they can just rusticate you from forever. And the third case, obviously, the moral responsibility of these people, these big celebrities or the politicians, is to look after the environment as well, rather than just going to use their lavish lives to overtake all these health issues. But so yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it from my side. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.